The Sky 2012 College Tour, presented by Spin Ultimate.
Here we are in Tampa, Florida, watching the semifinals of warm-up Florida affair. We have Georgia with a surprise victory over Carleton in the quarterfinals, 15-12, meeting Pitt, who got a first-round bye. Looks to be an exciting matchup. I'm here with Zack Smith. I'm Bryan Jones, here for the Sky Magazine 2012 College Tour. Georgia getting set the pole, coming out on defense. Caught by Pittsburgh on the fly, centered. Kuntza in the middle of the field, looking for Alex Thorne. Thorne going deep. Defender giving chase. Elliot Erickson there. Tips the disc. Thorne stays with it. Catches it for the goal. 1-0 Pittsburgh.
Great throw to space by Jason Kuntza for Alex Thorne. I like that matchup with Alex Thorne versus Elliot Erickson. Thorne getting the better of this one. That'll be a great matchup for the rest of this game. Going to see Georgia coming out having surprised both Florida and Carleton with wins 15-8 versus Florida and just now 15-12 versus Carleton. Big wins. One of the advantages Georgia having recently is the fact that they've only started playing yesterday. They have played less games. I believe they played 5 games yesterday, 6 this morning, where both Carleton and Florida have played 7 total, now 8.
Jason Kuntza out, Zach Kaufman out in the field, as well as Pat Earls, rookie Joe Bender, Colin Connor getting ready to pull. Going down the middle of the field, fading from left to right. Caught in the fly by Georgia. Centered to the middle of the field. Coming on a vertical stack. Looking to go deep immediately. Georgia receiver cutting deep. Gets to it. Georgia ties the game at 1. Beautiful deep shot there, right off of the pole. Centering to the middle handler. Looking for the receiver deep. And Georgia's able to tie this game at 1s. Georgia with a pull. Drifting back towards the middle of the field. Picked up on the fly by Pittsburgh. Finding Connor underneath. And back to Girolamo. Centered now swung to the right side of the field. Still working on their own goal line. Looking for the upline cut. Michael Brenner getting it underneath on the right sideline. Up to Jason Kuntza. Max Thorne dishing it around now. Isaac Saul with the disc. Kuntza up the Salt line. Big D by Georgia. Huge layout there.
Looked like Kuntza hesitated to throw that upline to Saul. Then threw it late. Georgia defender able to make up the ground on Saul as he kind of tapered off. Big layout D by Georgia. And here we get to see Georgia's defensive O-line coming out right now.
Georgia working it up the sideline.
Caleb Edwards with the disc.
Edwards looking to center it. Marked by Alex Thorne. Georgia right now stagnant. Looking for the upline cut. D there by Pittsburgh. Trent Dillon stretching the field deep. Dillon underneath the hammer. Dillon catches it for the goal. Quick transition there by Pittsburgh, giving them a 2-1 lead.
Dillon picking up the trash as the disc tries to get it. Georgia tries to hit Fletcher Hartline underneath. Moving it quickly. Trent Dillon dishes it, cuts deep. Isaac Saul puts it out to space for him. He runs it down. Pittsburgh holds 2-1. Here we are, Pittsburgh up 2-1 after holding on offense. We're seeing a lot of mixed lines comparatively to what we've seen all weekend, excuse me. We have Trent Dillon playing an offensive point, getting the D on a turn, and then coming down with the score. Pittsburgh mixing things up early.
Defensive line out for Pitt. Colin Connor with the pull. Lofty pull, hanging in the air, drifting to the right a bit. Now helixing over, allowing the defense to get set. Georgia centering the disc. Middle of the field. Looking for the swing, a bit too long, turnover. Pittsburgh looking to break right away.
It's definitely something you don't want to give Pittsburgh. Short field offense. Georgia's got to convert backfield or just send it deep.
Getting it just right outside the goal line. Pittsburgh coming out on a vertical stack, looking for the upline cut. Isn't there. Another one's coming through, though. Grabs it for the goal. Zack Kaufman with the catch, making it 3-1 lead over Georgia.
Zack Kaufman getting the upline from Marcus Dropcho. Dropcho looking off his initial look to Christian Pitts. Finding Kaufman cutting up line. Pittsburgh defensive offense 1-for-1 as they break 3-1.
Here we have Georgia's O-line come out in the field. We have Max Leonard on the field, center handler looking to distribute the disc, Elliot Erickson, as well as Bryan Walter, Tom Ball, Fletcher Hartline, who may just be the best man-to-man defender in the Southeast region.
Freshman Pat Earls getting set to pull for Pittsburgh.
Earls with the pull, inside out backhand, floating to the middle of the end zone, allowing Pittsburgh to set up on defense. D-line here has broken so far in the game. Moving it up immediately. Oh, big layout by Pittsburgh, almost gets the D. Max Leonard with the disc on the right sideline. Looking for someone now, throwing the bailout huck. Nobody is there. Players gathering. Wind is picked up. Georgia picks up the trash. Elliot Erickson puts another one out to space. Grabbed for the goal. Georgia getting a little bit lucky there, bringing it within 1, 3-2.
Ethan Beardsley, big Pittsburgh defender in the area, tries to make a play, jumps a little too early. A couple pick guys jumping a little too early as the wind picks up, allowing Georgia to make the grab, and they hold on to score there, 3-2 Pittsburgh.
Georgia breaks the huddle, trying to find a way how to get back early in this game. Pittsburgh going up a couple breaks. Defensive line playing strong. Now we're going to see the offense featured again. We have Girolamo, Thorne, Brenner, the other Thorne, younger Max Thorne, as well as Isaac Saul, Trent Dillon, and Zack Kaufman. Excuse me, Jason Kutza. Kutza back to receive the pull, centering it to Saul. Vertical stack. Thorne getting it immediately off of the break on the break side. Thorne versus Elliot Erickson, the big matchup this game. Girolamo looking back for Thorne. Swing offense here for Pittsburgh. Saul looking deep immediately. Girolamo taking off. He has it out in front, grabs it for the easy score. Doesn't get much easier than that. 4-2 lead for Pittsburgh.
Great lead from Saul to Girolamo, dumping it off to Alex Thorne, taking it off deep. Disc eventually goes to Saul, who puts it out to space. Another good matchup. You call out the Erickson versus Thorne matchup is a good one. Fletcher Hartline versus Tyler Girolamo will certainly give us highlights in the rest of this game. Offensive line for Georgia, typically liking to stuff it up the fore side. Max in the center, one of the more break side handlers, looking to distribute to both sides.
So Charlie Herrig on the field, big playmaker for Georgia. Pole caught in the center of the end zone for Georgia. Center to Leonard. Horizontal stack. Pittsburgh poaching off of the marks. Looking for the break immediately. Charlie Herrig finding Bryan Walter. Walter with a disc. Moving it up. 37 on the sideline. Georgia now looking back for the dump. Upfield. Georgia moving it well on this offensive possession. Stuffed along the sideline. Pittsburgh trying to trap them. High stall count. Georgia just gets it off along the sideline. Now breaks it off. Finding a cutter immediately on the fore side. Up the line for the goal. Georgia's offense rolls up the field to make it 4-3 Pittsburgh leads.
Nice kill mark on the sideline to try to shut down the dump. Max Leonard getting the disc. Probably stall 8, stall 9. Able to find Charlie Herrig, then cut up line for the goal. Good work by Georgia in a high-pressure situation.
Offensive line out for Pittsburgh. Once again, Dillon, Thorne, Brenner, Girolamo, Alex Thorne, Isaac Saul, and Jason Kutza. Georgia ready to pull. Backhand pull, Lowell coming in short. Caught on the fly by Kutza, center to Saul. 10 yards outside the end zone for Pittsburgh. Looking for Thorne underneath. Isolated off of the stack. Dillon stretching the field deep. Thorne putting out to space. Dillon's got nobody near him. Dillon catches it for the easy goal. An impressive speed shown by the freshman. Now a 5-3 lead for Pittsburgh.
That point showcases the freshman talent of this Pittsburgh team. 2 players coming in on this offensive line, having an immediate effect. Max Thorne with the great throw, but an even better first cut to get the offense moving. He brought his guy deep, because he's a big deep threat, coming back under, getting the disc, and then sending it deep for Trent Dillon. Great goal by Pittsburgh. 5-3 lead.
We have Charlie Herrig out in the offensive line, big playmaker. Max Leonard, Caleb Edwards, Mac Little, Tom Ball.
Edwards is a great cutter. We'll see if he could make something happen at this point.
Ball goes up, caught in the end zone by Jojah, center to Leonard. Vertical stack, straight mark for Pittsburgh. Hausman poaching off the mark, still able to get to Herrig. Herrig on the left sideline now, working 10 yards outside their own end zone. Jojah with the disc. Leonard, Pittsburgh switching the mark, trying to confuse Jojah here. Leonard jacking it deep. There's a receiver there. D by Pittsburgh.
Patterall's getting up big for Pittsburgh's defensive line there.
Earl's picking up the disc for Pittsburgh. Moving it to Kaufman. All on the play.
We get to see Mick Van Ness back on the field after taking half of Friday and all of Saturday off. Glad to see him back on the field.
Play resumes. Bender with the disc. Joe Bender, another freshman for Pittsburgh. Back to Earls. Earls looking deep. Hausman is there. Nobody within reach. Hausman for the goal. And a break for Pittsburgh, making it now 6-3. Pittsburgh in control of this game. Pittsburgh getting ready to pull, trying to continue with their momentum. Adding another break on to make it 6-3. Pittsburgh leads over Jojah.
Van Ness, Beardsley, and Connor on this line. Connor getting set to pull.
Putting it deep, hanging, coming up a little bit short. Leonard picking up the disc, centering it immediately. Forehand flick, mark for Pittsburgh. Looking for Erickson underneath. And Erickson with a big drop there. Pittsburgh with a golden opportunity just outside the end zone. Looking for Abovich up the line, not there. Swung to the middle of the field, just outside the end zone. Finding Connor on the right side of the field. Vertical stack, not much movement from Pittsburgh. Looking for the up line grab. Instead, the break goes out to space, and no one's home. Turnover, Jojah disc.
Colin Connor going for the inside break. What it looks for Andre Abovich. Errant throw goes way past his mark.
Leonard picking up the disc. Call on the play. Jojah coming out in a vertical stack.
We have Marcus Dropshow on the mark. We'll see what kind of tricks he's got up his sleeve in terms of this modifying force.
Leonard looking deep, puts it out to space. Jojah receiver trying to run it down. Too far for anybody, though, as it drifts out of bounds. Pittsburgh will take it out there about 15 yards up the end zone. Erickson lining up. Elliot Erickson, World Juniors player. Hopes to be a big star for Jojah. Play resumes. Overthrown. Pittsburgh can't come down with it. Jojah's disc.
The young Tyler Kunsa trying to push past to Marcus. Does not work there. Jojah with the short field.
Vertical stack. Trying to isolate Herrig. Finds his player right outside the end zone. Looking back to Leonard. Leonard looking for the swing. Finds Walters. Erickson on the break side, not available. All on the play. Play restarts now. Looking for the break, not there. Looking back for Leonard. Leonard still in the middle of the field. Erickson trying to go up the line, causes a pick in the process.
Leonard definitely looking to isolate Erickson here.
Play restarts now. Finds Erickson just outside the goal line. Looking for the disc. Erickson puts it out in front for the goal, and the 6-4 lead now for Pittsburgh. Jojah chipping away.
The straight sprinting speed of Erickson is very impressive. Beating his guy to the line with no fakes at all and then throwing that up line dish for the score.
Jojah's defensive line comes out in the field. Pittsburgh now having a chance to get the offensive line back out. Max Thorne, Trent Dillon, both on the field freshman studs so far this weekend. Ball goes up, drifting from right to left. I.O. backhand. Pittsburgh catches it on the fly. Jojah able to set up after the first throw. Saul on the mark, puts out the space to Girolamo. Finding Dylan along the left sideline now at midfield. Dylan looking back immediately, dump swinging it. Saul over to Kunsa. Girolamo striking deep, not there. Michael Brenner in the center of the field. Now back to Saul on the right side for Kunsa. Nothing available. Still dump swing. Saul heads up the line, finds Dylan for the continuation. Pittsburgh making it look easy as they strike to Girolamo. Out to space for the goal. 7-4, Pittsburgh leads.
Girolamo giving us a thumbs up after cutting for Dylan there. Got to point out the great distributing power of Isaac Saul. He strikes up line. He's got the capability to cut deep and make some plays, but primarily used as the center handler distributor for this Pittsburgh offense, and he's doing a great job at it all weekend long.
Isaac Saul drawing comparisons here to Alex Simmons of Wisconsin, two players here this weekend that have been able to distribute the disc very well for the team. Not guys you're going to see making the hugest of plays, but still vital to any offense.
I think the experience of this freshman core will allow these guys to be competitive in later tournaments, and especially in the series. You want your team to be as deep as possible for nationals, and things like this is definitely going to help.
Hausman with the pull, left to right, blading, caught by Jojah on the right side of their own end zone. Centered now, vertical stack look still for Jojah. Looking to strike deep most likely, instead finds an underneath cutter. Finds Little underneath. Moves back. Now up the line once again. Dump swinging it, particularly looking for the deep shot.
Something quick to point out. There's only 3 people on this field that are not freshmen for Pittsburgh.
Pretty incredible to have that youth be able to come in and get the breaks needed in these important games that restarts. Swung over to the right side of the field. Herrig with the disc. Swing the left side. The back poach D by Pittsburgh. Christian Pitts coming underneath. Up to Pat Earls, the right side of the field. Midfield now for Pittsburgh. Moving it up to Hausman. Back to Earls. Hausman looking for the swing. Continuing over to the end zone. Finding Earls just outside the goal line. Dishes it to Christian Pitts for the score. Pittsburgh takes half, 8-4 over Jojah.
A young Pittsburgh line able to get the D. Christian Pitts with some help defense coming off with the poach D. Pittsburgh able to come up 8-4 and take a big halftime lead.
Here we are, we're back again in the start of the second half. Pittsburgh versus Jojah. Pittsburgh on defense to start, up 8-4 over Jojah. A lot of breaks in the first half. Kunsa with a pull, low backhand pull, going to come up short of the end zone. Picked up by Jojah, centered immediately. Pittsburgh coming out, trying to poach off of the marks a little bit. Moved up, tossed out in front to Elliot Erickson, chasing it down. Pittsburgh is there. Erickson makes the grab. Elliot Erickson with a beautiful grab there to make it 8-5. Pittsburgh leads.
Pittsburgh young defender giving chase, has position. Elliot Erickson goes up a little earlier, gets to the space first, able to make the great grab and get Jojah back on the board 8-5.
It's unusual that we see a small player like that, Zack, able to box out bigger defenders.
It's a great talent to have, especially when you're going to cut deep as often as Elliot Erickson does. He's got to be a major contributor for this offensive line, and right now, with the disc sent deep to him, he contributes and he gets them their first goal of the half. Quick update for the score of the other semifinal. Central Florida coming out quick and fast, taking the 8-5 lead on Wisconsin. Central Florida may be able to come to the finals of this tournament.
High pull coming in from Jojah, coming back down, floating in front of Brenner, looking to center it to Saul, and does. Jason Kunsa on the other sideline, out dish to Alex Thorne to Kunsa. Kunsa unmarked still, centers to Thorne at midfield. Thorne finding Dylan underneath. Dylan looking for an option back, finds Saul in the middle of the field. Pittsburgh progressing up the field, finding Max Thorne underneath. Caleb Edwards giving chase. Thorne now on the right sideline, stoppage on the play.
Alex trying to cut for his brother Max. Gets his defender picked through the stack.
Thorn backing up, giving space to Saul. Reset with a dump swing. Saul looking for options. Now forced to go back to Kunsa. Kunsa give and go with Saul. Saul putting it out in front. Back to Saul in the middle of the field. Saul to Kunsa again. Same play now with Saul on the up line. Just outside the end zone. No! Isaac Saul with the goal to make it 9-5. Pittsburgh leads.
Great throw to space by Kunsa for Saul. Saul able to run to it past the bidding Georgia defender. Makes the grab. And that's a 9-5 Pittsburgh lead. Bender making some big grabs against some top opponents like Carleton and Wisconsin.
Wisconsin on the other field running sprints at halftime. Apparently weren't ready to play against UCF in the first half. Back to this game though, Pittsburgh again leading 9-5 over Georgia. Colin Connor with the disc getting set to pull. 3 freshmen on this defensive line for Pittsburgh. Very impressive. Van Ness playing after tweaking his ankle on Friday. Ready for the championship bracket. Connor with the pull. Going high, drifting from right to left, settling in the center of the field. Pittsburgh able to set their defense. Georgia now setting up the vertical stack. Floating it out to space, giving chase. Earls cannot catch up. Georgia's just outside the goal line. Looking for Erickson. Erickson trying to cut in isolation. Back to Walters. Walter. Back to Leonard. Leonard with a disc. Looking for Herrig on the right side of the field. Can't find him. Finding Walter just outside the end zone. Erickson wide open up the line for the goal. 9-6. Pittsburgh leads.
Again, if you're able to get Erickson in a dead sprint against his defender, he will beat you. Erickson, one of the fastest players on the field at this tournament, gets another goal for his team. 9-6 Pittsburgh lead. And if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm content with giving some playtime on my defensive line and trading for the rest of this game in the hopes of being fresh for the finals.
Georgia D-line out in the field, hoping to get a break. Huddling up during the stoppage between points. Pittsburgh O-line not being able to be stopped so far in this game. Georgia set the pull. 31 with the disc. Drifting from right to left, may go out of bounds. Settling down now on the left side of the end zone. Picked up by Saul. Center to Thorn. Coming out in L-stack. Dillon coming underneath isolation. Thorn hits him with a backhand break. Call on the play. Travel call perhaps on Alex Thorn. Thorn's so good from that position, having throws to hit almost any man on any point in the field.
His flick high release is definitely troublesome to deal with on the mark.
Dillon clearing out. Thorn finding Girolamo underneath. Girolamo looking deep, putting it to space. Max Thorn is there all alone. Catches it for the goal and the 10-6 Pittsburgh lead. Right now, Pittsburgh's offense cannot be stopped by Georgia.
Yeah, Pittsburgh has been hitting on their huck chances all weekend long. Girolamo putting it out to space for Max Thorn, who just, I guess, snuck behind Caleb Edwards, able to make the goal. 10-6 Pittsburgh.
Coach for Pittsburgh giving his team final pointers. Joe Bender out in the field, Christian Pitts, Colin Connor, Bobovich, Kunsa, Hoffman, Dropchow. Connor, another lofty pole, settling in the middle of the end zone. Centered immediately to Leonard. Georgia showing a new look on offense. Horizontal stack. Usually have come out in vertical. Harry getting the disc on the right sideline. Overthrown by Herrig behind his receiver. Turnover. Pitt gets a chance to break here.
With a short field to work with, I expect to see some grinding dump swing offense, but they may take a shot right away.
Coffin with a disc. Finding Connor 10 yards outside the end zone. Throws a hammer to space. There's the shot. Coming in underneath it. Makes the grab.
Christian Pitts.
Christian Pitts with the goal. Now an 11-6 lead for Pittsburgh, and they're running away with this.
Fun fact, there are actually 3 Thorns. Christian Pitts is a cousin of the Thorn brothers, though he plays a little differently. Stepping up big for the Pittsburgh D-line there with that grab.
A line out for Jojah. We see Bryan Walter on the field, Elliot Erickson, Max Leonard. Assortment of other seniors. Heavy experienced squad out for Jojah still.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to get destroyed. You don't want to put up a bad score, and you're still going to fight. You never know. 11-6 is big, but you get a score, a break, and then all of a sudden it's 11-8, and that sounds much better than 11-6.
College Ultimate, we do see teams become complacent with leads. Pittsburgh here has to keep the fire, make it easier themselves to get to the finals. Ball goes up, caught in the middle of the end zone by Jojah. Center to Leonard immediately. Kaufman on the mark. Foul called on the play. Leonard putting out the space to Erickson. Putting his man underneath. Center of the field. Fletcher Hartline. Hartline over to Leonard. Right side of the field. Backhand force, flat mark for Pittsburgh. Finding Walter on the sideline. Call on the play.
Nick Kazmarek, the coach of Pittsburgh, roaming the sidelines, not accepting anything less than perfection from his Pittsburgh defenders. Really pushing his guys to be the best players they could be, especially with this young roster.
Not slowing down with his 11-6 lead. Jojah now at midfield, trying to stop the bleeding. Walter with a disc as it's checked in, looking for Leonard back. Not available. Forced to go up the field, and there's a drop. Pressured by Colin Connor, receiver for Jojah. Drops the disc, giving it to Pittsburgh. Kaufman now looking down the field. Finding Tyler Kuntz on the right sideline. Back to Kaufman in the middle. Swung immediately. Turnover. Bad throw by Kaufman, giving Jojah the disc. Leonard putting it deep immediately. The receiver is there. Just outside the goal line now for Jojah. Erickson. Finding Erickson. No. Turnover. Contact on the play. Possible foul call, and Erickson looks injured.
Yeah, good defensive bid by Pittsburgh. From this angle, it looked like he had a shot at the D. Erickson comes down hard, grasping his shoulder. It'd be a big loss for Pittsburgh to see Erickson go down in a game like this. Hopefully he's all right.
Pittsburgh getting the disc now on their own goal line. Robchild picking up the disc. Bobovich on the field, as well as Kuntz, Connor. Horizontal stack for Pittsburgh. Finding Connor underneath. Starting off looking for Pitts deep. Pitts is there. Can he chase it down? Coming in short. Pitts makes the grab. And that's a 12-6 lead for Pittsburgh. And this game is all on the play.
Looks like a travel call on the Colin Connor flick huck.
Connor making sure that Pitts still has the steps he had before. Connor fakes deep, looking back now up the line. Thrown into a poach. D by Jojah. Erickson staying on the field, putting it out to space. Who's there? Big layout and a huge grab by Jojah to make it 11-7. Pittsburgh lead. Jojah staying alive.
In terms of the conditions that we have today, the wind is virtually non-existent, especially compared to the past 2 days. Temperature is nice, it's not too hot, and pretty comfortable day here in Tampa, Florida.
Humidity up a little bit higher, but yes, still a beautiful day, especially for these northern squads. Jojah with the pull. Inside out backhand, settling down. Kuntz back, catches it, centers to Saul. Saul finding Girolamo underneath. Then up to Max Thorne. Thorne on the right sideline, about midfield for Pittsburgh. Shoving off his mark. A lot of physical play there. Thorne throwing into a poach. Some discussion going on, but still a turnover. Jojah with an opportunity to get back in this game here, Zach.
Thorne kind of buying into the little pushing and shoving match. Took him a little out of his game. Should have looked for the dump swing. Instead threw it upfield straight into a Jojah defender.
Jojah picking up the disc. Looking for the deep shot, instead finds a man underneath. Dumped back now in the middle of the field. Finding a cutter underneath with an IO break. Putting up the space, too high. Tipped by Saul. Saul picking up immediately, dishing to Thorne. Jailbreak here. Thorne looking deep for Girolamo, thinks better of it. Finds Saul on the right sideline. Girolamo coming underneath now. on the right sideline. 25 yards left the inside. Jacks it to Michael Brenner. He's there all alone. Easy grab. 12-7 lead for Pittsburgh.
Awesome fast break offense from Pittsburgh. Off the turn, Saul picking it up, pushing it forward to Thorne, and then working it eventually to Girolamo, putting it out to space for Michael Brenner. Michael Brenner was a bunch of steps into his deep cut. His defender couldn't catch up. Girolamo putting it out to space. Brenner was all alone in the end zone. 12-7. Should things hold on as they are right now, we would see a surprise Central Florida versus Pittsburgh finals game, which would be a rematch of yesterday morning's first round play, where Pittsburgh was able to edge out Central Florida 16-14.
Defensive line out for Pittsburgh now. Earls with the disc. Bender. Pitts. Standard D-line we've seen for most of the game. Hausman, though, making an appearance as well. Pole coming in. Elliott Erickson catching the pole. Centering the disc. Pittsburgh late getting down. Georgia setup does not take advantage of any free shots. Hausman playing off the mark now with Erickson. Swung around. Put out to space. High. No defender in the area. Middle of the field. Put deep immediately. Receiver is there for Georgia. Georgia makes the easy play. 12-8 lead now for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh O-line out in the field. Michael Brenner from left to right. Trent Dillon, Alex Thorne, Tyler DeGirolamo, Isaac Saul, Max Thorne, and Jason Kunsa. Ball goes up short of the end zone. Kunsa catches it on the fly, center to Saul. Up to Alex Thorne. Thorne jacking it deep. DeGirolamo is there. Defender is not in the area. DeGirolamo makes the play. 13-8 lead now for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh D-line back on the field. Pulls short. Short picks it up off the ground, centers the disc. Coming on a vertical stack. Faking around, finding a cutter underneath on the right side of the field. Jacking it deep again is Caleb Edwards. This one blading. Receiver makes the catch just outside the end zone. He'll find his man just outside now. Dumped back. Looking for an option. Nothing available now. Finding cutter underneath. Makes the grab for the goal. Collision there, but Georgia now chipping away at the lead. 13-9. Pittsburgh leads. Offensive line now out for Pittsburgh. Michael Brenner, Trent Dillon, and Max Thorne playing big roles. Freshman starters. 5 freshman starters on this Pittsburgh squad. Pretty unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Georgia with the ball. Kyle backhand to the back of the field. Isaac Saul back to make the catch. Great ball by Georgia. Up to Kunsa. Finding Max Thorne underneath on the left sideline. Then to Girolamo. Girolamo hucking it deep. Blady forehand. Turnover. Georgia coming out in a vertical stack. Looking for the break immediately. Receiver streaking deep. Handler holsters the disc. Violation called. Call on the field. Pittsburgh sideline doesn't like the outcome. May have been a question of whether or not he could have stalled his man at the time. Either way, coming back in. Georgia looking back. Thumb swing. Swing is not available. Now putting it deep. Girolamo looks like he's there in position. Overthrown though. Both misreads by both players. Saul picking up immediately. Pushing it up to Brenner. Brenner looking for Dillon underneath, not there. Finds Alex Thorne instead. Thorne to Saul. Saul putting it deep out to space. Dillon is there. Defender is there. Going to be going jump ball. Dillon comes down with it for the goal. 14-9 Pittsburgh lead over Georgia.
This game all but over, so it seems. Pittsburgh just looks so smooth. Their only turnovers coming from missed throws from themselves. I don't see a lot of Georgia pressure right now.
Georgia unable to get pressure on Pittsburgh's offense right now. The athletes on Pittsburgh are just hard for Georgia to counter. Trent Dillon there making a play on a disc. That wasn't the greatest throw from Saul. That's what happens when you have athletes and skill. Work it up the field. Sometimes you're going to get lucky. Sometimes you're going to be able to make that play. Pull goes up, caught by Jojah on the fly. Pittsburgh able to cover the first throw. Still in their own end zone, Jojah now. Looking for the cutter underneath, Hartline with a disc. Put out the space, pick calling the play, Edwards with the disc. About 20 yards outside his own end zone. Edwards has been jacking it lately, now finds the underneath cut. Now still trapped on the sideline, looking for the back, finds his man, 76 with a disc for Jojah. Back to Edwards. Edwards putting it deep, IO flick to space. Jojah is there with the catch to make it a 14-10 game. Pittsburgh offense coming on the field for game point.
Edwards keeping Jojah alive in this game. The guy has 3 for 3 on his deep hucks. He's the only one producing right now for them.
Pittsburgh O-line back on the field again. Same O-line we've seen throughout this game. From left to right, Michael Brenner, Trent Dillon, Alex Thorne, Jason Kunsa, Isaac Saul, Tyler Girolamo, and younger brother Max Thorne. Michael Brenner right now playing an unsung hero role for Pittsburgh, even though he's one of their better players.
Yeah, I haven't seen him really do anything wrong. And in times when you're on a field with such superstars, that's the best thing you could do.
Ball goes up. Kunsa comes down with it. Centers immediately to Saul.
Wind
Finding
picking
Thorne
up.
underneath. Over to Kunsa. Kunsa finding Thorne with a backhand break. Thorne up to Alex Thorne. Alex Thorne putting up immediately for Tyler Girolamo. And that's the game. Pittsburgh wins 15-10, advances to the finals to face the winner of UCF versus Wisconsin.
This has been Zack Smith and Bryan Jones of No Scuba covering the semifinals matchup of Pittsburgh and Sabah Nur and Jojah and warm-up of Florida Affair, part of Sky's 2012 College Tour presented by Spin Ultimate.